Hi friends and welcome back. Okay, in this tutorial what I want to do is I want us to click this button and change the color of all of these Canadian cities and maybe make the font size a bit bigger. So how we're going to do that is I'm going to introduce you in this tutorial to querySelectorAll. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do what we've done previously. We'll use querySelector to grab the button. When the user clicks on it, we'll log something out to the console. And then what I'll do is I'll show you how we can use querySelectorAll. In fact, you know what? Let me just do querySelectorAll first and let me show you this. So I'm going to say let paragraphs be equal to, and I'm going to say document dot querySelectorAll. Okay, querySelectorAll is an inbuilt method in JavaScript, and I am going to pass in P for paragraphs. Then what I want to do is I want to just log out to the console.log paragraphs, and I want to show you what we get. So if I do this, we actually get this node list. Okay, so a node list is a data type that we have not yet covered. It's beyond the scope, I would say, of beginner JavaScript, but don't worry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we can use for each to essentially iterate over each paragraph. But I want to only do that when the user clicks on the button. So we'll say let button be equal to document.querySelector, and we'll just pass in button. So in our index.html file, we have one button here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is on the button, I'm going to put the on click, if I can spell correctly, on click. Okay, and we're going to assign that the value of an arrow function. So when the user clicks on the button, let's just log out button clicked. Just want to make sure that's all hooked up and working. So if I save and refresh, click on the button, we get button clicked. Okay, awesome. Now what I want to do is, instead of just logging out to the console that the button was clicked, I want to just show you what the paragraphs look like. So we need to use the for each to iterate over each paragraph. I don't want you to see just node list in the console. I want you to actually see what the paragraphs are. So how we can do that is as follows. We can say paragraphs dot for each, that inbuilt method in JavaScript. It is a method, so we have to have our parentheses, and this is expecting at least one argument passed in. So we're going to pass in a callback function that is going to fire for each paragraph in the node list. And each time the for each runs, we have to get a reference to what each paragraph is. So we need to come up with a placeholder name. I'm just going to call it paragraph with no apostrophe s. So note that paragraphs is a reference to all the paragraphs, and paragraph will be a reference to each paragraph we're iterating over. And now that we've done that, I can say console.log paragraph. Okay, so paragraph is the paragraph that we're iterating over using the inbuilt for each method. So if I now save and refresh, now if I click on the button, we see here we get the paragraphs. Okay, awesome. But instead of just logging out the paragraph to the console, let's change the color. So we can say paragraph.style.color. Let's assign this the value of red because they are Canadian cities. And let's just make the font size a bit bigger. So we can say paragraph.style.font size. Font size is there. And let's just do maybe 35 pixels. Semicolon to end the statement. So now if I save and refresh, and if I click on the button, we get our Canadian cities. They're bigger and they're red. Okay, awesome. So how did we do that? Well, in this tutorial, we learned about the querySelectorAll. So the very first thing we did was we actually got a reference to our button in our JavaScript file. We said let button, so button is just a variable, and we stored the value of document.querySelectorButton. So basically the button is stored in this button variable. Then we got the paragraphs, all of the cities, the Canadian cities paragraphs, by saying document. Remember, document is an object, and objects have properties and methods built onto them. So we said document dot query selector all. Note the capital S and the capital A, so our camel case there. And we put in a little p here. So this is going to get, query selector all is going to get all of the paragraphs. And we stored it in a variable called paragraphs. Then what we did was we added an event listener onto our button. We're listening out for a user click. So button dot on click. When the button is clicked, we then fire this arrow function. So we've assigned button dot on click the value of this arrow function here. So we have our parentheses, our little equal sign chevron, our opening and closing curly brace. So all of this is code that's going to run when the user clicks on the button. An arrow function is going to fire. And what we did was, for the paragraphs, we called the for each method. So we just have to come up with a placeholder name here that gets reference to each paragraph when the callback function fires. So we call it paragraph, and therefore we can say paragraph.style.color, and we change that to red, and we said paragraph.style.font size is equal to 35. Okay, so that's awesome. And you see here that even though we're learning about the document object model, we're still using code we've seen previously. You know, we have dot notation to access various properties of an object. We have a for each. We have our little arrow function there. But the key takeaway from this tutorial is, in addition to get element by ID and query selector, we also have query selector all. Okay, I'll leave that tutorial there, and I hope to see you in the next one.